Hello. I've had this idea in my head for a bit now, but it was definitely solidified once I gained these buckets into my possession. A few of them are industrial-sized wood glue buckets, and some of them have other liquids for industrial use. So I was sure to clean them out really, really well with soap and a lot of water. And then remove the sticker on them, firstly by ripping off what I could, and then hand sanding the texture down. They had also been sitting in a very dusty or gross areas for some time, so I made sure to clean off the lid as well, as those are a pivotal piece of, well, the piece. A palm sander was also used, but it left too much of the texture. I didn't like it because it kind of melted the plastic a little bit, so that was only done the once. Once the buckets were all prepped, including a scuff job to the lids, I used my paint gun for the first time. This was definitely a learning curve, but I figured it out for the priming job. I also figured out real quick that it would be faster of a cleanup job if I placed a bag inside of the spray gun to add the paint into. So I could, 1, have the bag be used more than once as it's plastic and I try to reduce my waste as much as possible. 2, if I didn't use all the paint, I could simply tie the top and it wouldn't dry out. And 3, like I said, a faster cleanup, as I wouldn't need to worry about the bucket portion of the spray gun being cleaned. For the priming though, I left the lid on each of the buckets and then went to town, from top to bottom, back and forth, letting it dry a bit and then flipped them as to make sure I got all the crevasses. This was fairly easy as it was a warm day out when this was going on, so it dried pretty quickly. I used multiple layers of primer, then I removed all the lids and continued the same process with a very customized mixture of yellows, as close as I could to the original color of the Play-Doh buckets. I did a set of 2, as that's all that would fit on the plywood board that I had placed down. Then place those off to the side and continue on with the next 2. Then place the first on top of the other so I could get all the nooks once again, and then flip them, do 1 more layer. And then a puppy palette cleanser. Finally, we are back to the lids, which meant back inside. Each lid needed to be a different color, and I got a few of these Play-Dohs from the dollar store to color match as best as I could with the mix of acrylic paint. For all of these, I did a few coats. The blues and the greens definitely needed 3 or 4, maybe even 5, whereas the purples and pinks were definitely less. Once I had all of the colors to my preferred opacity, it was time for the sealant, which, if you know me, or you've watched this channel a bunch, you will know is resin. Resin time, resin time, resin time. Cue Evan and Kaylin. While those were put aside to cure, now came the real test. I did this technique on a Christmas decor video, which was a while ago. I made some jumbo fake candy, but basically printing out the size appropriate logo for whatever you're wanting to do, placing a clear piece of plastic over top and securing it down. And then taking some school glue. I just grabbed this from the dollar store once again. I'm using a white glue, but you can use clear for this for a more transparent look, and mixing it in with alcohol ink until you get it to the color that you want, kind of. Note, when the glue dries down, it will look flatter like a matte or a satin instead of a glossy. It does change color a little bit as well. I did one up doing the outline of the letters first. In the entire outline. And then the red. And then finally, the white inside of the letters and the outline. I did a few of those to cover all 4 buckets and definitely got better through the process. Little tip for you if you're doing this, be sure that the edges are fully dry before continuing to the next color. The middle will take longer to dry because it's hopefully thicker, but as the edges are dry, the colors won't mix. You also don't want to wait too long though, because the glue will start to peel up if they aren't attached to anything to weigh them down. For example, the outer blue edge not being connected to the red until you add the white in there. Also, the peel porn is marvelous. Once I had all 4 done, I mixed up another batch of resin and added a generous layer onto the front of the bucket, being kind of more strategic in where I was placing it, as the paint hadn't fully covered all of the leftover sticker from the glue bucket. I could have added another layer, but at this point, I just gave up with how many there were there. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. I then placed and pressed down the logo, placing a piece of plastic over top of it, and then adding some straps onto it till the resin was cured to really hold it down and stay in place. And make sure it was really stuck there. I did try this process a couple of ways, but I found that this was the easiest. Then once cured, remove the plastic and do an overall layer of it around the entire piece, as well as the front and over the logo. There were a few logos that were a little bit messy, so I simply cleaned up the edges as best as I could with scissors. The resin also helped to hide some of the texture left on the one that the hand sander was used on. But that is it for today's video. I do hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you in my next one.